Despite romantic legend to the contrary, the discovery of X-rays was not an accident. It was instead the purposeful result of the work of a trained scientist searching for something whose existence he already suspected. It was on November 8, 1895, that Professor Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen at the University of Würzburg first observed the effects of a mysterious form of radiation, then totally new to the scientific world, and he aptly named it for the unknown quantity X. But more than a month was to elapse before Professor Röntgen officially announced his discovery in a report submitted to the Physical Medical Society of Würzburg. To others, however, the startling news had already reached a skeptical, astonished world.
Thus, the bones of the human frame can be photographed in relief without flesh which covers them. See right through a man's body? Poppycock. 'Tisn't reasonable.
Look right through people. Says so right here. I suppose it's one of those tricks they do with mirrors. It has possibilities.
X-rays. They can pass right through the human body. If this story is true, what a tremendous help it will be to medicine. Thus, X-rays came upon the world, doubted by most, feared by some, ridiculed by many, but eagerly accepted by the open-minded and gradually applied for the good of humanity.
Now, Mr. Hodgkins, just place your hand right here between the X-ray machine and the plate.
Oh! Do you mean to say that machine is going right through my hand?
You won't feel a thing. Just keep your hand there for 30 minutes.
Oh, excuse me. I must take my little Navy back to school.
Now, Mr. Hodgkins, there's nothing to be nervous about. All right, Sam.
Oh.
The X-rays are going through your hand right now, Mr. Hodgkins.
No? But I can't feel a thing.
Of course not. Just concentrate on keeping your hand still. Keep on turning, Sam.
From such simple beginnings, X-rays have grown to be an indispensable aid, not only to medicine, but to other branches of science and industry as well.
Dr. Petrie, please. Dr. Grove is calling.
Hello, Dr. Petrie. My report on Mrs. Oliver is ready. You want me to mail it to you, or will you drop in here? All right. Come over in about a half hour.
I'm Bill Borden. I'm to have my knee X-rayed.
Oh, yes, we've been expecting you. Won't you be seated? Perhaps you'd like to look at this while you're waiting.
Thanks. Big X-ray machine speeds up casting inspection.
An important advance in the application of X-rays for industrial purposes, since foundries were among the first to see their value and use them to show hidden flaws in castings. X-rays offer the only known means of completely inspecting a casting without destroying it. In the radiograph, the flaws ordinarily show up as dark, irregular markings. These indicate cavities or other bad spots whose dimensions may be as little as 2% of the total thickness of the metal. When a film has such markings on it, flaws are almost certainly present, even though the eye can't see them. In welding shops, too, where they make heavy tanks for high pressures, X-ray units are necessary equipment. In the radiograph of a weld, flaws show up as dark lines or areas. A straight black line indicates a lack of fusion. Since heavy metal is involved, very high voltage X-rays must be used. The usual range for industrial machines being 2 to 400,000 volts. These are quite common in industrial plants, government arsenals, and laboratories, and it has even been found possible to build a highly flexible industrial unit to operate at 1,000,000 volts or more. In the food industries, where the problem of adequate practical inspection is a matter of no minor importance, X-rays offer a solution which is simple, accurate, and reliable. Detection of foreign objects and material, checking for quality, and the inspection of packaged goods for defects, proper count or quantity, all can be done readily by X-rays, and often all at one operation. The products to be inspected usually pass through the inspection unit on a conveyor belt, which carries them between the X-ray tube and a fluoroscopic screen, which is so mounted as to completely shield the operator who watches the fluoroscopic image through a lead glass window. When she wants to reject an imperfect product, a conveniently located lever or push button operates a mechanism inside the inspection unit, and this diverts the unwanted specimen. The system is widely used among marketers of citrus fruits. A good orange, for instance, throws a nice, smooth, even shadow, while an orange which has been damaged by frost, for example, has an uneven, mottled appearance. Small stones or balls of dirt, which look more like peanuts than the goobers themselves, are vividly contrasted on the X-ray screen. Packaged material, such as candy bars, can be inspected with great ease and accuracy, since foreign objects show up well and shortages in packing can be detected readily. In canning plants, X-ray inspection of prepared foods just before they are actually canned is one method used. And outside the food industry, metal inserts and such things as rubber heels show up plainly, and any that are out of place can be detected. While small assemblies, such as electric switches, can be checked for completeness and accuracy. Why, it's getting so that even service stations have X-ray equipment for examining tires for embedded nails, glass, and other objects, so that they can be removed before they cause punctures and blowouts. Another field in which X-rays are relatively new and in which they outdo even the most powerful microscope is the study of crystal structure. In this work, the object to be studied cannot be seen by the human eye. It is submicroscopic. The behavior of any material, metallic or otherwise, depends on the arrangement and spacing of the constituent atoms. And the crystals are made up of orderly arrangements of planes of atoms composing lattice-like structures. For example, this greatly enlarged model of the crystal structure of sodium chloride, common table salt, would show planes of sodium atoms alternating with planes of chlorine atoms. But these planes, or layers, are so close together that visible light, even with the most powerful microscope, fails to show them. But when a beam of X-rays is directed into the crystal, they register a definite pattern on photographic film placed at some distance from the crystal. This is called a diffraction pattern. Now, if the crystal used is sodium chloride, the pattern will be characteristic of only sodium chloride. Since no two crystals have the same characteristics, it is possible to obtain important information from their diffraction patterns. In the manufacture of steel products, the metallurgist may use X-rays to study the metal in each stage of its processing. A pattern of steel, as it comes from the soaking pit, would indicate that the metal is soft and malleable, while the pattern made after rolling would show that work hardening has taken place and high tensile strength has been developed. The manufacturing chemist has still other uses for X-ray diffraction. For example, a commonly used drug under certain conditions may have no medicinal effect, and diffraction patterns will show whether those conditions prevail, or that the drug may be used with confidence that it will produce the desired effect. Even in the biological laboratory, diffraction can be used to study organic tissue. A diffraction pattern of normal tissues taken from the lens of an eye and chilled to the temperature of liquid air, presents one appearance, whereas if that same tissue had been treated with salt solution before chilling, quite a different pattern would result, thus providing a clue to the effects of certain salts upon human tissue structure. Research of this type is going forward rapidly, and someday may help to determine the causes of certain types of physical disorders. And this, of course, will make it possible to render better preventive or curative treatment to human ills. Another reminder of the service of the X-rays to medicine.
Mr. Borden, Dr. Grover's ready for you now. Miss Carroll will show you in.
Oh, you're Bill Borden.
Yes, Dr. Grove.
I've seen you around the campus. That was my father's office.
It's quite a bit different from yours.
Yes, took him as much as half an hour just to radiograph a hand.
A half hour. Now for my knee, it will take only a second.
Oh, less than a second for the exposure itself. A film, please, Miss Carroll. Now, young man, if you'll just get up on the table. Over on your side. That's it.
You mind if I ask you a lot of questions, Doctor?
No, why?
Well, you see, I'm in my second year of medicine, and I've thought some of going into radiology, but I don't know much about it yet.
Ask all you want. Now, suppose we get at that knee of yours. All ready, Miss Carroll?
Yes, Doctor. Hold still, please, Mr. Borden. That's all.
So soon?
That's all there is for the exposure. We'll have a look at this film, Miss Carroll, just as soon as it's ready.
Quite a machine you've got here.
Yes, it does very well.
Certainly is different from the one in the picture.
There's been quite an improvement in equipment since my father's day.
Is there anyone in particular responsible for it?
A great many men had a hand in it. But perhaps the greatest single step forward was taken by that man there.
Who is he?
Dr. Coolidge. William D. Coolidge, director of GE's research laboratories.
What did he do? Find a new way to make X-rays?
No, not to make them, but to provide a thoroughly reliable and controllable source of the electrons that do make them. His contribution is contained within this casing. It's the modern type of X-ray tube. To hear the story from Dr. Coolidge himself is most interesting.
Fundamentally, the method of producing X-rays is the same today as that employed by their discoverer, Röntgen. X-rays are produced when a high-speed stream of electrons strikes a solid target. In early X-ray tubes, the electrons necessary for X-ray production were released by first breaking down a small amount of air or other gas contained in the partially evacuated tube with high voltage applied across the terminals. Operation depended upon the amount of gas within the tube, and since this was variable, the tube was unreliable. In the present day hot cathode X-ray tube, of which this is one of several different types, there is a high vacuum, and the production of electrons depends only on the size and temperature of an incandescent tungsten filament with a cup-shaped structure surrounding it. This particular tube has two filaments, either of which may be used. The swarm of electrons, which is liberated or boiled off from the white-hot filament, is speeded up to a very high velocity by high voltage applied between the negative electrode or cathode, which carries the filament, and the positive electrode or anode, which is called the target. the electron stream is focused to a very small spot on the target by the cup-shaped cathode structure. It seems that the electron stream striking the target at terrific velocity is stopped so violently that the electromagnetic radiation known as X-rays is produced. The efficiency of X-ray production is very low, and most of the energy of the electron stream goes to heat the target. This heating effect of the electrons may be likened to the flame of a blowtorch striking a metal plate, while the light coming from the heated spot on the metal plate target corresponds to X-rays coming from the focal spot on the target of the X-ray tube. As a matter of fact, X-rays are like ordinary light, except that they are of very much shorter wavelength and are therefore invisible. Although X-rays themselves cannot be seen, their effects can fortunately be made visible. Photographic film, in general, is sensitive to X-rays, and a special type of it is used to record their presence. Recording of X-ray images on film is called radiography, and the finished films are known as radiographs. X-rays also have the power to make certain chemicals fluoresce, that is, give off visible light. A piece of special cardboard coated with one of these chemicals constitutes the so-called fluoroscopic screen. The use of such a screen to reveal an X-ray image is known as fluoroscopy. It has the advantage over radiography of enabling us to visualize internal structures in motion. Besides being of much shorter wavelength, X-rays also differ from light rays in that they cannot be focused in a camera. So ordinary photographic procedure cannot be employed. Instead, we use a shadow technique. If I now turn on this small spotlight and place my hand in its beam, I can cast a shadow of my hand on a white card. Now, if instead of the spotlight, I use an X-ray tube, such as there is in this little portable X-ray unit, and if instead of the white card, I use a film in a light-tight holder, I can cast an X-ray shadow of my hand, which on the developed film looks like this. Note, however, that instead of a solid silhouette shadow, as with light, the X-rays produce a shadow which shows a distinction between the bones and the flesh. In other words, X-rays pass through some substances more easily than through others, and the details of the image depend upon the amount of X-ray getting through the different substances which make up the object. It is this ability of X-rays to differentiate between types of substances which gives the rays their great diagnostic value. The type and power of the X-rays used varies with the character of the objects to be studied. For both the penetrating power and intensity of X-rays vary with the voltage applied to the tube. With increasing voltage, the rays will go through thicker layers and denser materials. The intensity of the X-rays also depends upon the amount of current flowing through the tube, which ordinarily is but a small fraction of an ampere. Generally speaking, the greater the penetrating power and the greater the intensity of the X-rays produced, the shorter the time to make a radiograph. It seems both incredible and paradoxical that rays which are themselves invisible can reveal objects which are otherwise also invisible. But that is exactly what X-rays can do.
That must be a pretty powerful unit you have, Dr. Grove.
Yes, it is a powerful unit, but power